Now you know the basics of the game. Let's play. Players choose their starting pieces, position, and which grocery item they must obtain, which will be directly across from their starting position on the board. Once everyone is situated, each player will draw a letter and a number to designate a contaminated space. Hold on to your tiles until everyone has chosen a contaminated spot, and then return them all to their bags. They will be needed later. These contaminated spaces will not be usable for the entire game, unless some bargaining or lucky drawing is done, but we'll get to that. If any player's starting, item retrieving, or the middle space is chosen at any point during the game, they would not be usable. To prevent this, the family must pay $5 per space to keep it in play. The pile of action cards in the center is shuffled and ready for gameplay. The player with the closest upcoming birthday will start first, the player on the left following them. What to do during your turn. The player picks an action card from the top of the pile and reads it aloud. There are 3 types of action cards in the game: moving, stalling, and contaminated space. A moving card will instruct the player on their ability to travel the board. They will be given a stated number of steps, between 1 and 3, and a direction, forwards and backwards, left or right, or even diagonally. If these moves do not benefit their progress, they can choose to stay put, or again, bargain with the rules. Stalling cards prevent a player from moving during their current turn, possibly future turns, or even make them move backwards. Lastly, the least common and most dangerous card throughout the game are the contaminated space cards. Once these are pulled, a contaminated space will be designated just as they were from the beginning, drawing 1 letter tile and 1 number tile to designate a coordinate, to show that this space is no longer usable. If the letter and number represent an already contaminated tile, congrats, it's now back in play. But if an individual happens to be on this contaminated space when it is pulled, the family funds will be reduced $20 and the player will be moved directly in front of the now contaminated space. Now let's spend that extra cash. The family starts out with $35 per player, but will be pooled and distributed as needed. They must be able to purchase each player's $20 item, but remaining funds can be used to change the trajectory of the game to their advantage. On the moving cards, players can purchase additional spaces to move, or a change in direction of their move altogether for a small fee of $5. On stalling cards, a player can buy a redraw for $10. This can only be done once per player per game, so choose wisely and consult your team. And always remember, a redraw may not be positive. The team can choose to pay $5 to prevent the space from becoming contaminated. This is something to keep in mind if the space is in a vital location for players to move around and if your teammate is standing near that tile. Now let's obtain your grocery item. Once the player has made it to their opposing space, a grocery bag will be placed on their game piece to show they have picked it up. Their next destination is to meet the family in the middle. Once players have obtained their grocery items, they will continue to use action cards to move to the middle of the game board and hope the rest of the family can join them before time runs out. A few tips to remember. When figuring out where to go, always remember players cannot jump over dead tiles and must move around them. Not only can players not land on dead tiles, but they must be aware of other players. 2 players cannot share a tile and must be avoided. In short, the goal of the game is for each player to purchase their grocery item across the board and make it to the middle before the family runs out of money or time. Have fun!